All right, guys, it's Brian here, and today is day number 10 in our 12 days of wet shaving series. And so, up to this point, we've talked about razors, both double edged and single edged razors, as well as injectors. Didn't get too much into straights and shavettes because, quite frankly, I don't use them, and there are other guys that are out there that can speak to those with a lot more authority than what I can do. We talked about brushes and the different options that are out there, how they can affect your quality of lather, the feel on your face. And so we spent some time talking about brushes. We also spent some time talking about soaps and creams. And as I said, and I've said many times, we live in what I call the golden age of wet shaving. And there's probably no other space in wet shaving that is more evident of that, in my opinion, than the wealth of options that we have in regards to soaps and creams. We spent some time talking about aftershaves and aftershave products, not just liquid aftershaves or alcohol-based aftershaves, but witch hazel-based aftershaves and lotions and balms and also the alum block. We also spent some time talking about blades and the different options that are out there, the importance of finding a blade that works well for you. And then after we got done talking about the implements or the tools of wet shaving, we moved over into talking a little bit about technique. We talked about the importance of having good facial preparation, whether that's showering beforehand or applying a wet hot towel or using some beard oil, whatever we can do to prep our face, make sure that our face is hydrated, our whiskers, our hair is well hydrated, whatever we can do to make it easier for that blade to cut through that hair. Then we moved over into talking some about technique with regards to the usage of razors and making sure that we've got the correct angle of the blade against our face and allowing the weight of the razor to do the cutting and not pressing down or not tugging or pulling. Dragging it across our face. We don't want to do that. We want to have an irritation-free shave. We talked about the importance of multiple passes, that in wet shaving, it's really about beard reduction and not beard removal. We're not trying to get it all off in one pass, but we want to do multiple passes, taking the hair off a little bit at each time, so that, again, we're not irritating our face and we have that optimal shave. After that, we talked some about understanding how your beard grows, making sure that you're aware of how, the direction that the hair on your face grows, so that you are aware of how to move that razor across your face, focusing initially on just shaving with the grain, and then maybe moving to shaving across the grain, and then if you're really going for that BBS feeling, which I don't do very often, but shaving against the grain. Then after that, we spoke a little bit about sane beginnings and making sure that we avoid chasing after all of the glittery stuff, new razors, new blades, using a new razor, a new blade, and a new soap every shave. We don't want to do that when we're starting out. Really, what I recommend people do is really stick with about the same setup for the first several weeks, month, and maybe even months. For me, I spent about 3 months using the same razor, the same blade, and the same cream. And really tried to focus on developing good technique and understanding my face and listening to what my face said. And so I had a great foundation for a lifetime of good shaves. Today, we are going to talk about lathering. And we're going to first talk about bowl lathering. Tomorrow in the next episode, we're going to talk about face lathering. But today, we're going to talk about lathering and how to lather a soap, and we're going to specifically talk about bowl lathering. When you first start into wet shaving, that's probably one of the areas that is difficult or can be difficult to grasp, because there are so many things that affect the quality of a lather. Obviously, the soap itself and the components within the soap are going to affect the quality of a lather. You really want to avoid soaps that have olive oil as a main ingredient in them. There's a lot of artisans, especially on Etsy, that are selling, in essence, what is their bath soap or their bath bar that they've thrown a little bit of clay in, and you try to get a lather out of that, and it's just not going to work. I'm not the best one to speak to all of the science behind it, but the soap makers in the forums and the Facebook groups are all unanimous just about in their agreement that olive oil based soaps are just not going to lather, that olive oil is just going to break down that lather and you're not going to get a good creamy lather. So you really want to avoid those. But when you get into good quality artisans, it's still the quality of your water can affect the lather that you get, and understanding, okay, how much do I need to load my brush? Am I overloading it? Am I underloading it? Am I adding enough water? Am I adding too much water? Those are all things that all of us, as we've gotten into the hobby, have struggled with. And so today I really want to give you a few pointers on how to get a good lather. And really, in my opinion, the easiest way to dial in that lather and really get an understanding of how all of those components interact with each other, the water quality, the soap, the brush, all of those things, is to bowl lather. And I really do recommend that new people to the hobby really start out bowl lathering. So first of all, when you're starting out bowl lathering, well, what do you use as a bowl? Some guys are going to go out and they think, well, I've got to go out and buy a Georgetown pottery scuttle for, $50 or $60. Nothing wrong with that, but you don't have to start there. You don't have to throw a lot of money into a bowl to bowl lather. In fact, this is where I started. I had this cappuccino mug in my kitchen cabinet. I started with it, nice and big, and has this nice handle so I can put my thumb through it. Fits in the palm of my hand nicely. And I could take my brush and I could whip up a nice lather in this bowl, no problem. Now, one of the problems with this, admittedly, is that the bottom of this is smooth. There's no texture in it. And so one of the things you may want to look into doing, and this is just a cheap way to get started, Rick DeWeese from Brush and Soap and Blade podcast is the one that, I don't know if he invented it or perfected it or how we want to say it, but the salsa bowl. Salsa bowls can be found at dollar stores, Walmart, very, very cheaply. And you get those, there's already a little bit of a texture in them to begin with, but then Rick has techniques on how to texture them, putting beads in them, etc. And that just helps make it easier to build that lather. Again, it doesn't cost you a lot of money. The other thing you can do is keep your eye out as you're at flea markets and secondhand stores for anything that might appear to be a good candidate. This little bowl here I found at a flea market for $2. And it's got this nice little handle on the bottom. It fits in the palm of my hand. And right now I've got my brush soaking in it and a soap. We'll get to that in a minute. But again, just fits in the palm of my hand and great for that. Chris Bailey from the Traditional Shaving Evangelist YouTube channel, he recommends using the Danish gravy boat for bowl lathering. And this is what he does his test lathers in many times. It's really nice. The bottom of this, I don't have a very large hand, and yet I can grip this and hold it in the palm of my hand. You can whip up a nice lather. This will catch some of the lather if it starts to spill over, so it just helps keep things neat. Then, obviously, if you want, you can go out and buy a traditional shaving mug and this here happens to have, you can see it's got ridges on it, it's got that texture, and that's going to help us build the lather. So many different options, but you don't have to go out and spend a lot of money. You don't have to go out and buy a big scuttle or anything like that. If you want to, great. Those are going to keep that lather nice and warm by putting that hot water underneath it, but it's definitely not someplace that you have to start. But I do recommend that you do start by bowl lathering because, again, it's going to help you get that feel. So what I've done here, as we've been talking, I've had my brush soaking, and really that's one of the things you want to make sure you do when you are shaving is make sure that your brush is soaked. And really, you do want to bloom your soaps or soak your soaps depending on how they're packaged. This one here, I'm going to use Williams just because Williams is actually a soap that's notoriously hard to, or I shouldn't say notoriously hard, but does have a reputation for being difficult to lather. And I've just dropped it in here and I've been soaking it in the bottom of this in the warm water. And so we'll take a look at that and we'll see how that plays out here in a little bit. But you can take a tin of How to Grow a Mustache or one of Ginger's Gardens, any of the soaps, and just bloom them. I know you're not going to want to do that with creams, but any of the soaps, and just put some hot water, warm water on it. And while you're taking your shower, if that's the way you do it, but just allow that fragrance to bloom. Something like this one here, this WM Newman's is a hard soap. And so by putting that hot water on it and allowing it to sit, just like I did with this Williams, it's going to soften it up and it's going to make it that much easier for the brush to pick up the soap. So I've had my my brush here now soaking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it out. And I'm just going to kind of wiggle it back and forth a little bit just to get most of the water out of it. Not all of it, but most of it. And you'll play around with this. Your water to soap ratio is going to vary from soap to soap. And it's going to vary from person to person, I think, based on the quality of water you have. If you have really, really, really hard water, you may want to look at using distilled water. My water is fairly hard. But I still am able to generate great lathers even with some of these more difficult to lather soap. So here it is. I've got my Williams puck. And so I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to start swirling my brush on it. I'm holding it in the palm of my hand. You could take this and drop it in the bottom of a shaving mug or whatever. But I'm just going to hold it in the bottom of my hand. And you just start swirling your brush around and around and you're just going to get a load on it. And so I'm just going to load this for probably about 30 seconds. That's generally what I try to go for with Williams. There's some soaps that I have that I will load quite a bit more than that. Some of them I load up to even 90 seconds, depending on the soap and whatnot. But this one here, I'm just going to go ahead and load for probably about 30 seconds, and then we're going to go and move it to the bowl. But I'm just circular motions, maybe a little bit back and forth. And again, I'm starting to generate a lather. You can see it in my hand there. And I'll just go ahead and scrape that off into the bowl. So we've gone ahead, we've got this loaded. And so I'm going to go ahead and wipe my hand off here because I don't want to drop my my shaving mug, since I did just get this for Christmas. So here it is. I've got it in my mug, and now I'm just going to kind of do a little circular motion, side to side, and just start generating that lather. And you can see it's already starting to build in the bottom of this mug. I've got those nice ridges there, and so I'm going to go ahead and just really start working this, and it's starting to generate that nice creamy lather in this bowl. So I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of water to this, and you can do this a number of different ways. I'm just going to take a few droplets of water and just kind of do that. And again, we're going to just swirl that around. Oh, look at that, just exploding. And you can see I've got a really nice lather going on here. And so once you've got this lather built, now you can just take it and you can bring it right to your face. But again, just a nice lather going there, and not the best lather I've ever built, but definitely a definite passable lather here, and definitely shavable. And it didn't take me that long, just swirling it back and forth. And again, you would this is going to work a little bit differently depending on the soaps that you have, depending on your water quality. But that's really what all you need to do to bowl lather and to get that nice lather to shave with. A bunch of different methods out there. There's some guys that advocate taking a dry brush to a soap. This was kind of basically I would say a modified Marco method, where I didn't really keep all the water in the brush, but just really I kept a lot of it in there, and wasn't a really, really dry brush. But you can check that out. There's what's called the Marco method for loading your brush as well, and then using that to generate that lather. So hopefully this is helpful. Play around with it. You get new soaps in, do some test lathers. That's one of the things that I know Chris Bailey uses his Danish gravy boat for, is doing some test lathers when he gets new soaps in. But just take some time, and maybe you're sitting and watching television, and just take a new soap and just work on getting that technique and understanding how much water you need, understanding how long you need to load your brush, and you will be able to get great quality lather and have some great shaves. So this is Brian reporting live from my shave den, wishing you a lifetime of great shaves.